host, Chris Massey.
It's a weekend night. I'm doing what I always do. Yeah, turn the traffic sight, you're driving me out of my mind.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Massey and welcome to the Chris Massey Music Show here on the American Hearts Radio Network. We're coming to you live tonight from our studio here in downtown Atlanta. Tonight is episode 8 of season 2 and the 24th episode of the Chris Massey Music Show. We appreciate you all watching. Yes, we do. Now, this past Friday night, Bruce Jenner was interviewed by Diane Sawyer, and Bruce Jenner came on TV and basically told everybody in America that for most of his life he has felt like a woman. Now, for those of us that are old enough to remember the summer of 1976, like myself, when Bruce Jenner was a decorated Olympic athlete, his face was on the Wheaties cereal box, and he was endorsing products right and left, watching this the other night was a little uncomfortable. But for some people, it was a little disturbing. Now, it wasn't disturbing because Bruce likes to wear women's clothes. What was disturbing about it is they said he was a Republican. What in the hell is going on with that? I bet Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Here we got this guy who's obviously going through some type of gender identity crisis coming on national TV and supporting the GOP. I tell you what, man, you have got to love it. You have got to love it. But let me tell you something, Bruce. Now, most of America is going to be okay with you wanting to be a woman. I mean, hell, after living with those Kardashian girls all that time and seeing how much money they were making, who the hell can blame you? But the Republicans, on the other hand, they're going to have a little problem with that. See, the last thing they want is somebody like you on national TV supporting the Republicans. They don't want any votes from transgender people or people from the gay community because it goes against everything they believe. They also don't want any votes from poor people because they don't want to raise minimum wage. And people on government assistance, forget about it. Any good Republican will tell you there aren't any poor people in America, just lazy people. And the environmentally conscious people, well, they don't want your vote either because you believe in climate change. And although 97% of all scientists who have studied it and say it's a fact, we still do not believe it. Now, what the Republicans want to do is they want to win the White House in 2016. But the way they want to win it is with the power of the middle class, upper class, white, heterosexual, Christian vote. That is what they want. They want it to be the majority because that is the America they live in, and the ones that don't live in it, that is the America that they dream about. Now, Mitt Romney in 2012, he was sure that was the majority. He was quoted as saying that 47% of Americans don't count. That's right. I don't need your vote because there's plenty of people on the other side that are going to vote for me. Well, turns out that old Mitt was wrong. Now, if you're a liberal and you live down here in the South, you're the minority, and you have to learn to keep your mouth shut, like when you're at the barber shop, or you're standing in line at the car wash, or you're at the ball game, and some loudmouth Republican is putting down the Democrats, and he's just talking as loud as he can, thinking that everybody around him agrees with what he says. There's always been this sense of Republican superiority that I've seen living down here in the South. These people seem to think that they're smarter than the Democrats, better than the Democrats. And if they were left in office all the time, things would be a whole lot better. The only problem with that is that history tells us something completely opposite. The two biggest financial crises in American history, the stock market crash in 1929, which was followed by the Great Depression, the housing market crash in 2008, which was followed by the Great Recession, both times we had a Republican in office. In fact, we were going through years of Republican presidents. In 1929, Herbert Hoover had just been elected, and we were in our 9th straight year of a Republican president. George Bush had been in office 8 years when it happened. If you do your research and find the 10 worst days in stock market history, you will find that a Republican was president 8 times. Now, is this a coincidence? I don't know. You know, Calvin Coolidge and George Bush both cut taxes on the rich, and both of them decided that they didn't need to regulate Wall Street, let them do whatever the hell they want, and well, the rich got richer, and they both increased government spending. So where does all this superiority come from? You know, I don't know. I had a black friend of mine tell me one time, he said, look, man, white people are born with a sense of superiority. Once they become Republicans, hell, it just gets worse. Now back to Bruce Jenner. Bruce, honey, don't you worry one bit. We got plenty of room for you over here on our side because we don't care about your sexuality. We don't care if you worship God, Buddha, Allah, Muhammad, or the devil himself. In order to be a Democrat, you have only got to be able to answer 3 questions. You just need to know 3 things. Number 1 is this. Ronald Reagan has not been president for 27 years and he doesn't matter anymore. Number 2, that Sarah Palin is barely qualified to run a hot dog stand. And number 3, freedom is not found within the parameters of morality. It is found within the law of the land. We got a great show tonight. I've got Dave Tenenbaum from the Rain Men here and legendary Atlanta guitarist Glenn Phillips, plus Rick Renfro and Betty Johnson. It's going to be a great show. Get you a beer and relax. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Chris Massey Music Show. And by the way, I'm Johnny Van Zant, Leonard Skinner.
All right, we're back. My first guest tonight is a very talented musician, plays guitar, plays keyboards, plays saxophone, and is a terrific vocalist as well. He currently plays in a band called The Rain Men and also has his own project called Dave T and Friends. Would you please welcome to the Chris Massey Show, Mr. Dave Tenenbaum. Hey, Dave, come on in, my friend. Come on, doing well. Good. Come on in and have a seat. All right. Okay, Dave. Now, Dave, we were talking at, you grew up here in Atlanta, and you actually went to high school with our other guest tonight.
Right.
You and Glenn Phillips went to high school, and you started playing guitar about, how old were you?
12 years old.
12 years old, and you put together a band pretty quick, did you not?
Sure did.
Okay. And now, the music scene in Atlanta, and we're talking late 60s, early 70s, right?
Yes.
Okay. There were a lot of clubs around Atlanta that a lot of musicians were playing. Alex Cooley's Electric Ballroom, Richards, places like that. But you went another route. You guys decided to get out there and started playing the fraternity circuit. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
We did. When we had, first group was, we were the Shades, and then we morphed into the Soul Stations. And it was a full horn band. We were doing James Brown, Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave. And yeah, we got picked up by quite a few fraternities and started traveling really early.
Okay.
We wound up with our own truck, and we didn't even have anybody old enough to drive it.
Wow.
So we had to hire a singer that was 16, and yeah, then we started traveling.
So this must have been an eye-opening experience for you guys, even that early on, I would imagine.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
And you guys were making money, right?
Made a little money.
Made a little money.
Had a lot of fun.
Well, back in the day, in the 80s and everything, we used to play some fraternity parties, and they paid very well. Now I think they hire DJs. For the live band at the high school and the college, it's gone unless it's a big concert, and that's a shame. Now, how long have you been with the Rain Men?
Been with the Rain Men for a little over a year now.
Okay, and you're an original member?
No.
Okay.
No.
Now, who started the band? Did Michael Myers start the band?
Dave Michelson was the original.
Dave Michelson.
Founder.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was with the Fords.
Okay. And you guys have kind of got a formula of kind of a British pop type of thing. You do some American bands from that time, but we're talking the Byrds, the Kinks,
Beatles.
the Beatles, stuff like that. And I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of bands in Atlanta the time I've been around the scene, and you guys are one of the best vocal bands I've ever heard.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you guys, when I was there one night at Smith's Old Bar. No, I'll tell you what, it was at the Moonshadow when I did that gig with you guys, and y'all played Nowhere Man by the Beatles, man, and it just blew my socks off, how well y'all did that song and everything. Now, tell me a little bit about this other project you got, Dave T and Friends.
Yeah, Dave T and Friends is my original band, and I write music. I've been writing music since I was 12. And so in 2008, I put a group together to play original music.
Okay.
And we have a show coming up. We've got 2 albums out so far, working on a third. We've got a show coming up May 9th. That's Saturday night at the 120 Tavern in Marietta.
Okay.
And we've got a big group. 11 of us will be there. Got a full horn section.
Oh, awesome.
And 3 3 lead singers. Michael Myers, one of them. A guy named Tommy Lewis. Oozes the Blues, plays sax, is another one.
Wow.
And yeah, it's going to be a great show that night. We're going to be playing cuts off the first 2 albums, and also some music from our upcoming record. And some new stuff that hasn't been released yet. We've also got on the ticket that night, we've got Mike Bourne and the Atlanta Boogie. So
Been around for a long time.
Yeah, they're awesome. He's got a stand-up bass player, Paul Diffin. Dan Stark plays sax. They're very entertaining. Kerry Denton, who's the drummer for the Dave T and Friends, is also going to be playing drums with the Atlanta Boogie as well.
Okay, wow.
In addition,
please go ahead.
In addition, one of the neatest parts about the show that night is we're going to have a band playing with us called the Sparkle Tones, who are out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Sparkle Tones had a number 17 hit on Billboard Top 100 back in the late 50s.
Wow.
And they're coming down. The drummer is our drummer's dad.
Wow.
So they're going to make a cameo
Young
appearance.
guys.
Yeah. They played on the Ed Sullivan Show. They played on Ted Mack Amateur Hour.
Wow, that is impressive. And they're going to be there to play as well.
They sure are.
Now, this original music that you're doing, tell me what it's like. How would you describe it?
Gosh, it's wiggle music. It's designed to make you wiggle. When you hear it, it's funky rock, rhythm and blues. My influences early on were the Beatles, James Brown, and Jimi Hendrix. So I like the harmonies of the Beatles and the melodies of the Beatles, but I like that groove of
James Brown.
Of James Brown.
A little psychedelic from Jimi Hendrix as well.
A little funk in there, little psychedelic.
Well, you can't lose with influences like that. So that's this Saturday night at.
A week from Saturday.
From Saturday, which is May the 9th.
Thank you.
At the 120 Tavern in Marietta, Dave T and Friends. And when is the Rain Man playing again? You guys got a gig coming up, do you not?
The Rain Men will be at Napoleon's on the 16th of May.
Okay. The Rain Man at Napoleon's, if you haven't been there to see that is always a good time. Dave, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Massey from The Chris Massey Show. You know, one of my favorite places to hang out, eat, and play music is the Moonshadow Tavern in Tucker, Georgia. Moonshadow Tavern, they got great food, great drink, and great live music 5 nights a week. Right now at the Moonshadow Saloon, you can go and get 5 appetizers for $5 each. That's right, 5 appetizers for $25. So just go down there and get them. Hell, those appetizers, man, that's a whole meal in itself. Hi, everybody. I am Rick Renfro, and I am here tonight to talk to you about the law firm of Minter, Picks, and Hurtem. Minter, Picks, and Hurtem is a law firm out there for women. That's right. They represent women who have been treated poorly in their divorce. They guarantee financial satisfaction and revenge as well. So tonight we're going to talk to one of their satisfied clients, Miss Betty Johnson.
Hi, I'm Betty Johnson. My marriage was a wreck. My husband was the biggest scumbag. He was banging both my sisters, our 4-year-old son's preschool teacher, and the 17-year-old babysitter. I had no idea where to turn.
So what happened once you called Minter, Picks, and Hurtem, Betty?
Well, they sent over 2 of their finely trained divorce technicians, and they promptly beat the holy crap out of my husband. They broke 3 of his ribs, dislocated his shoulder, and he lost a testicle.
Wow! How about that for service? So, what happened after that, Betty?
Oh, I got a huge settlement. I get every dime he earns for the rest of his life.
Well, if you get all that, how is he supposed to make a living?
I don't know, and I don't care. He'll probably find some middle-aged skank anyway.
Oh, that is awesome, Betty. So tell everybody out there, would you recommend Minter, Picks, and Hurtem?
You bet your balls I would.
Minter, Picks, and Hurtem. When your man's a pig and you need him hurt, call today. Minter, Picks, and Hurtem.
Heroes fall to
right. We're back. I tell you what, that Minter Picks and hurt 'em, man. If that won't make you straighten out, guys, I don't know what will. All right. Now, that video you just saw was of my next guest. He was performing there with Cindy Wilson from the B-52s and Jeff Calder, a friend of the show from the Swimming Pool Q's as well. Now, he was in a band in 1970 that played places like the Fillmore East, opening up for bands like the Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead, and performed at the Second Atlanta International Pop Festival, one of the biggest concerts ever in America. Would you please welcome to the Chris Massey Music Show, Mr. Glenn Phillips. All right. Come on in. Hit the staggering crowd. I know. All right. Glenn, thank you so much for being on the show. We've been waiting to get you here, and we got you here tonight. So, now, what I find amazing when I was talking with you the other day is that from the time you picked up a guitar and the time you were on stage at the Second Atlanta International Pop Festival in front of 350,000 people, there's only a 4-year window. Right. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I'm guessing that guitar playing came real natural to you. Is that right?
Well, it did come very quick. I picked up my brother's guitar when I was 16. I hit the strings, I felt the vibration in my body, and I just had this thing go through my head, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I just had a floodgate of sounds come into my head. And that's what I've been doing since then. And so, you know, looking back on it, I see it a little differently than I did then. I think I was, like a lot of teenagers, you're trying to make sense of the inner world and connect it to the outer world.
Right.
And my parents, who I love very much, were alcoholics. My dad ended up killing himself. And I look back now and I see that music was a hiding place for me. And a positive one. It helped me. It gave me a place to go inside, a way to go inside of myself and find some place I felt safe.
Okay.
And it's been something, for me, it's been a personal journey of discovery throughout my life.
Okay. Now, the Hampton Grease Band, which was fronted by Colonel Bruce Hampton. Right. Okay. You guys got together and went in the late 60s. Is that right?
We got together. I met Bruce in '63 before I even started playing guitar, and but the band started in '67.
Okay. Now, people always talk about the great Allman Brothers shows at Piedmont Park.
Right.
But the Hampton Grease Band is the ones that started those concerts. Is that right?
Right. We started the shows in '68 because we couldn't find any place to play. Well, we did find some places to play, but we weren't always that popular. For instance, there was a blues club because we started off playing blues. And so we thought, this is going to be our home. We went to this, it was a black club downtown called the Poison Apple Room. And we thought, they'll get us. And I remember in our first set that we played down there, a guy walked up to the stage, pulled a gun out of his pocket and said, you play some James Brown and I'm going to blow your damn head off. So we realized maybe we need to find someplace else to play.
Or you could have called Dave's band.
Right. A band. So we ended up just going down to Piedmont Park. We found a live outlet. We plugged into the pavilion.
No permit, no permission, just went down there and did it.
And we just plugged in, and crowds of hippies would gather around us. And it turned into a gigantic scene. And then we did that throughout the summer of '68. We started doing it again in '69. We got a call from Phil Walden. He said, I have this new band, the Allman Brothers. They'd like to come play one of these with you. And from that point forward, we probably played 30 shows with the Allman Brothers. I mean, we played every time. We played together at the park. We did concerts with them. Dwayne Allman was the one who told Bill Graham at the Fillmore East, you have to hire these guys. And he hired us sight unseen because he had said that. So there was a connection between the two bands that dated back to that first show in the park in '69.
So you actually you knew Dwayne Allman?
Yeah.
You knew Dwayne. Now, right. I've always heard, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. I've always heard that of the two brothers, I've always heard that Dwayne was the nicer one. Is that correct?
Well, look, they were. I can't say. Look, those guys were hardworking guys. They were traveling all the time, on the road all the time. So I don't want to give you the illusion that we were like hanging out all the time. We did lots of shows together. They were all nice. It was a rougher crowd than we were. You know, you'll read books about what the road crew, the guys, they were just having to live on the road all the time. There were a lot of drugs involved.
I'm sure.
This is an odd thing to say, but coming from a home of alcoholism, I've never smoked any pot. I've never even had a beer in my life.
Wow.
So there was aspects about the Allman Brothers that, to me, as much as I liked them, I tended to stand back a little bit.
I got you.
So they were all very friendly. I liked them all quite a bit. But when I was invited into the dressing room, I usually didn't go.
I got you. Now, you guys end up playing the second Atlanta International Pop Festival in 1970 in Byron, Georgia.
Right.
350, 400,000 people. A lot of people said this was the Woodstock of the South.
Right.
It was the largest crowd Jimi Hendrix ever played in front of in the United States. He only played in front of about 50,000 people at Woodstock. Most people had already gone home.
Right.
I believe he played at midnight on the 4th of July on a Saturday night at that show. I've had people on the show that were here. Jimi Hendrix was there. I can't remember. I know a lot of the bands that were at the first one, but that must have been a thrill to get on that stage and be able to see nothing but heads. And do you remember what time of day you guys played?
We went on early in the day, and we ended up playing twice because we got a really great response. You know, people asked me what it was like and what that crowd was like, but we were so self-absorbed that we just went out and did what we did and weren't even thinking about it.
I got you.
And had I been focusing on it, I might have been overwhelmed. But I remember we started our set off, there was a whirlwind, and it started whipping up storm. And this is how we started the set. And I saw it, and I just started making racket on my guitar. And Mike said, our bass player says, "What are you doing?" I go, "It's a whirlwind, it's a dust storm soundtrack." And then the whole band just started playing racket in a cacophony, and that's how we opened the set. We were very self-absorbed musicians, which was the charm of the band.
I got you.
And for us, it didn't matter if there were 400,000 people or 4 people. We were just into it. We loved playing together. We loved having this connection that we have with each other, and it didn't matter to us where we were playing. Had I stared out in the audience and saw how many people were there, I might have peed in my pants, but that didn't happen.
So you guys get signed by Columbia Records,
Right?
And you put out a record and for Columbia,
Right.
And the record did not sell real well, which
no.
I guess is kind of an understatement.
Right.
It was actually the second worst selling record on Columbia, other than a yoga instructional
Yeah,
album.
at the time, that's what we were.
But it
told.
got great reviews.
Yes, it got really good reviews. Now, I'm not. When I say at the time, I don't know if that still holds true today or not. But it was a very poor seller. It was. It's a very esoteric record. As self-absorbed as I was talking about our performance, you can multiply that times 1,000 times the way we wrote music.
Right.
The guitar, myself, and there were 2 guitar players in the band, myself and Harold Kelling, and we would write these 20-minute long songs, and with 1 million parts. We were just really into it. And to give you an idea of our songwriting process, I remember I had written this song. We spent weeks working on it, getting it together, and then finally, once we get it worked up, it dawns on us, we don't have any lyrics for this. So I pulled an encyclopedia off the top of off of the bookshelf. I opened it up to a random page, and it's on Halifax. And I go, "Okay, Bruce, sing this." And I start reading the lines of text and making them rhyme. And that was the opening side of the album, 20 minutes. And
I heard some of that on YouTube the other day.
So it's really not that hard to understand why the record wasn't selling. But it has gone on. It did go on to become a collector's item because it was a very unique record.
Mm-hmm.
You know, anything about marketing or ways to be commercial were not anything that we were the slightest bit concerned with. And honestly, that I've been the slightest bit concerned with ever since then. To me, the creative process itself is its own greatest reward.
I got you.
And that's what was the charm of the band, and that's why I think the record went on to become a collector's item, and it was reissued in '96.
Okay. Now so after you guys break up, the Captain Grease Band, you go on a solo effort, and in 1975 you released this instrumental album called Lost at Sea.
Right.
And you were signed to Virgin Records.
Well, yeah, and that was interesting because this was before the do-it-yourself movement.
Right.
Lowell George with Little Feat was a supporter of mine. I used to sit in with them a lot. And he had taken a tape of me to Warner Brothers, and they wanted to sign me. We had signed to Frank Zappa and Herb Cohen's company. Herb was involved with a lawsuit with Warner Brothers, and he said, "You're going to have to give me $100,000 for this contract," knowing they wouldn't pay it.
Right.
Obviously not for a guy, an unknown guy. So I couldn't make a record for a label, and it was after my dad killed himself. Making this record was my way of dealing with this emotionally, to try to take a very traumatic experience in my life, somehow make sense of it by doing something creative or positive. So I just thought, I'll just do this myself. I put it out myself. I recorded it at my house, and somehow a copy got over to John Peel on the BBC. He started playing it all the time. It came in second in a reader's poll in Melody Maker, which was the equivalent of Rolling Stone over there. And Richard Branson, who now is doing spaceships and airlines, was the head of Virgin Records, and he flies over to my little shack in Brookhaven to sign me as the first American artist to Virgin Records.
Wow.
And that's how all of that happened, which, you know, what's interesting about that story isn't so much me, it's just that something like that could happen. Because just imagine the possibility of something like that happening today.
That's right.
It wouldn't happen. It's very different world.
Now, this is the 40th anniversary
of the first album.
Of the album, and you have got a big show coming up. Won't you tell everybody about that?
Well, about a year ago, I got a call from a label in England that said, "Are you doing anything for the 40th anniversary release of this?" Because the record was a bigger record in England than it was in America. And he wanted to put out a double vinyl album of it. And he also ended up hooking up with an American label to put it out over here. And I thought, well, if it's coming out, let me just get in touch with all the people that played on the record 40 years ago and see if they'd like to do this. So we're going to play a concert at the Red Clay Music Foundry in Duluth on May 30th with the original guys, and we're going to play that entire album live for the first time.
Wow. That's exciting.
Yeah.
You got to be pumped for that.
Well, yeah, I'm very excited that everybody's alive and can do it. And just what I feel about music is just incredibly lucky to still have the ability and opportunity to do something I love. That's not anything you ever want to take for granted.
Glenn, we're going to have you back. There's so much more material that we can cover that I want to cover with you, so you got to promise to come back again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Glenn Phillips, everybody.
Thank
We'll
you.
be right back.
This is Johnny Van Zant from Leonard Skinner. You're listening to American Hearts Radio.
Serving Atlanta since 1998, Massey Gutters understands the challenges specific to our area.
All right, we're back. We're back. For being a guest on the Chris Massey Music Show, my guests Dave Tenenbaum and Glenn Phillips will both receive a 6-month supply of Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat, and a case of turtle wax. That's right. Just see Ray, the security guard, down in the lobby, and he will get you your door prizes. Well, Rachel, another show in the books, and you're going to be back in May with 2 episodes of College Confidential, because we were not able to shoot one in April because of your busy schedule you have going to school and appearing in movies and all the other stuff that you've got going on. And school is just about out.
Yes, on Thursday.
And so that is exciting. And so any idea what you're going to be doing on the show in May?
Yeah, we actually plan to have a DJ from Georgia State's radio on the show.
Wow.
It's very entertaining, so that'll be a good one.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a big catch. All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks again for watching, everybody. In May, I have got some great guests. May 18th, we have, of course, Tom Gray from Delta Moon and the Brains, and Chris Linky, who is lead guitarist for the death metal group Attila, will be here on that show as well. Later on that month, we have Peter V from the Roys. Peter V is going to be here to tell all kind of stories about the Atlanta music scene that nobody's ever heard. So until then, remember what I always say. Always love your woman. Take life as it comes, and when you get the chance, what?
Have too much fun.
That's right. We'll see you next time.